In growing small business tax land, I'm about to show you what we call the Titanic, or an unmitigated disaster. And we see it a fair bit and cannot believe it every time we see it. In a growing small business, if you're in the wrong structure, this one is the unmitigated disaster. Living Pets Proprietary Limited, our favourite business. Running pets, getting them back together. Mrs. Smith's doing it all and she's doing a great job. What we see a lot of is a growing business like Living Pets running under a trading company. That in itself, running a small growing business under a trading company, it's not the end of the world if it's structured correctly. We'd prefer a trading trust, but a trading company, okay, we can live with that. One thing we can't live with, and neither could the pets, is 50% shares in the trading company running the growing business under Mrs. and Mr. Smith's name. It is an unmitigated disaster. And I'll tell you why. Because if they have any sort of investment or ownership of a growth private investment in their own names, they have to drag money out of this company after paying the 27.5% or 30% and pay an extra 18% tax on every single dollar to pay off the loan in an investment in their own names. So, what else do they have dramas with? People who are structured this way. Imagine they've got a couple of properties in an investment trust and they want to pay off some loans off those properties. How do they get the money out of the business, which is really starting to go and creating some excess funds for them? How do they get the money out? There's one way of doing it and one way only, and that is to pay out a dividend via Mrs. and Mr. Smith. And when they do it, they're paying 48% tax. Yep, 48. 30 when the business made the money, and another 18 when it comes out. And then they can go on pay off loans in a trust. What else is disastrous about the unmitigated disaster? Well, let's have a look here. Mrs. and Mr. Smith, they're starting to grow the value of Living Pets Proprietary Limited, which means the value of these shares in their own company is going up, up, up and up. And you know what that means? That is creating a lot of value in their own names. Good for their own private wealth, isn't it? Yes, good for asset protection. Absolute unmitigated disaster to have growing wealth in your own business, in your own name. What happens if Mrs. Smith messes up an operation and it causes untold grief to the family of that pet? Something else happens and this company gets a lawsuit against it and they get everything out of the company that they can, but then something else has gone wrong and they come and take on Mrs. Smith. Her value in her company is all in her own name. You can't have that in your own name. You have to have your growth investments not in your own name. Because if you've got growth in your own name and you're a director of a company, you are at risk of losing the lot. So, asset protection reason, don't put shares in your own company that's growing in your own name. It is an unmitigated disaster. And I'll bet there's a few of you who've got this structure. In fact, if we go and look back to a heroine of Australian television back in the 70s, Miss Helena from Romper Room, I bet I can see a few of you out there. I can see you, Craig, and Jill, and Jane, and Sunday, and Wednesday, and Noah, and Michelle, and Vishal, and Gidget, and Maya. I can see you trading under a trading company with your personal partner with 50% shares. If you're out there, it is an unmitigated disaster. It can be solved because you need to be restructured. So don't live in zombie land. If you've got a growing business in this structure, you got it wrong. Come and see Paris Financial, the small business tax champions, and we'll get it right. Catch ya.